Welcome to the future.
Welcome to the Muxall Open IoT channel. I am your host, Michael Crane. So in this video, I'm just going to show you the differences in the two PCBs. I did finish laying out all three PCBs, and I ended up having to redesign all three. The button one, not so much. I reused a lot of that, but the main PCB and the high voltage PCBs, as you'll see, have both been completely new layouts. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and start with the main PCB. On the left right here is the Version-3 main PCB, and on the right is Version-1. Okay, so let's get started. So on the right here is the Version-1. You can see the main ESP32 system on a chip right here is kind of towards the middle. And on the new one, I moved it up here on the top. And I did that because I needed to move the terminal blocks for the chamber probe and the meat probes to the sides. And if you'll notice on the Version-1 down here, on the right, I mean, so here's one terminal block, here's another terminal block for the meat probe, another terminal block, and they're down here on the bottom. Well, if you remember, I had to make room. That's what this gray area is right here. I had to make room for the 3.5 millimeter jacks, and I can show you that. Yep, see, there they are right there. I basically just took a picture of it and copied and pasted it in here and scaled it to the proper size of the button panel. And as you can see, the button panel will be a little bit wider than the main PCB. And that's actually by design. The button panel doesn't need to fit through the hole, so I didn't want to narrow it any. I want these buttons as big as possible, plus it helps in mounting. With the 3.5 millimeter jacks right here, I couldn't easily access these terminal blocks, so they had to be moved to the side. And when I moved them to the side, as you can see, there's just not, I mean, that's a pretty big board for this little board, right? I mean, this board's only, 2.25 inches wide. It looks big on video, but it's really pretty small. It's 57 millimeters. And by the way, these both these pictures are scaled to 330%. So the comparison, you can see how much larger the Version-1 board is than the Version-2, and you can you can also see it's it looks a lot more dense, as far as the traces go. This looks like it's got lots of real estate, and this has been crammed in there pretty good, right? So it was either put the ESP board at the top right here, or try to squeeze it in the middle here somewhere. And the problem with getting it kind of in the middle here is we'd run back into the problem of it running into this rotary encoder right here. This rotary encoder's not quite in the middle, but it's pretty close to the middle. And as you can see right here on the Version-1 board, here's a rotary encoder, and as you can see where the ESP32 mounted right here, I had to kind of lift this rotary encoder up a little bit and trim these pins, and that worked okay. But I was worried if someone hit the rotary encoder real hard, like it bumped into something in the garage or something, it would smash into these pins and bend them. I mean, and short. And I didn't want that, so I decided to just move the ESP32 up here out of the way. Another difference is this wasn't actually a connector right here. I just made this a footprint, and if you watch my previous video soldering this, yeah, that was a huge pain soldering that flat flex to this. And I didn't like the reliability of it either. And if you're wondering what happened to the pour, I just forgot to turn it back on. So state poured, there we go. So that's what the pour looks like. It's about the same. It actually looks a little better than the version 1 in that you don't have this big old long set of traces running down here to the bottom of the PCB, because the version 3 model, I put the LTC 2984 in the middle here, and so it's more centrally located to all 4 of the probe terminal blocks. Right. Another thing I did too that is better is I put the cold junction compensation diodes, which are these transistors right here, closer to where the actual cold junction is. And so yeah, this will be better instead of, in the middle of the board where I had it on here. So here's where the diodes were in version 1, and that's okay. I mean, for what it is, but really it should be closer to the terminal blocks. I guess ideally it should have 1 per terminal block, but I think having 1 on each side of the board will be good. One of the things I noticed while I was shooting this video, so we were talking about the LCD connector up here. Well, actually it wasn't a connector, it was just a footprint. And we added our new LCD connector right here, this connector 1. And as I was shooting this video, I was looking at this going, I forgot something. There should be a hole, a cutout in the PCB around here somewhere, anywhere I can fit it, so I can feed the flat flex through from the bottom side, because if you remember, the LCD actually mounts on the bottom back here, right? And let's see if I can, yeah, so it actually mounts right here. Actually, the button panel does too, for that matter, right? And yeah, so the LCD mounts here, and there's a flat flux that comes out of the middle of the LCD right there, and it needs to feed through to the bottom. So I'm going to put my mouse right there, come to the top. So yeah, I need a cutout, somewhere around here. I'll probably put it down here so it'll come out. I know it's really hard to see. I'm sorry about that, but anyway, it'll come out. I'll just look at the bottom of it. So it'll come out of the bottom. That flat flex is pretty long, so I'll be able to put a cutout in the main PCB right around here somewhere, and then it'll just loop back around to the top side and plug right into this connector. So, and I'm guessing right about there is a good spot for it. Doesn't look like there's hardly anything there. Let me turn off these images. Yeah, I think that would be perfect. So, while I'm thinking about it, we might as well just add that to the list. PCB, add cutout for LCD flat flex. Okay. And I'm not exactly sure why it's... There we go. And that is definitely a item, because we need that done before we get it manufactured. And since we've got this up, we might as well look at our things to do list. Yeah, I'm still working on the design. I need a list of requirements. I kind of been adding stuff as I think about it down here on the bottom. Most of these are implemented. Of course, we've been working on that one, and these have all been implemented. And these are going to need some code. That won't be that hard though. And but this A1 priority to reduce the length of the PCB 11 to 12 millimeters is done. All right, allow clearance for our 3.5 millimeter jacks, and I also reduce the size of them. So yeah, we can cross these guys off. And the controller is too deep. Yeah, so let's look at that real quick. So, that's going to be on the high voltage board. Hold on, let me pull those up real quick. So here's a high voltage layout, and as you can see, it's it's completely different. On the right, of course, is the version 1 board. On the left is version 3. All right, and I think I put a, yeah, here it is, version 3. Okay. Yeah, so if you remember, we ran into a problem with this power supply right here being a little bit tall. And of course, all the footprint was completely wrong. So that's all been fixed. And I moved it down to the middle right here, right? And the fuse right here. And this board has also been reduced to 57 millimeters wide, and well, it's 56 millimeters wide. Thought it was 57. Anyway, and 94 inches tall versus, you can see it's definitely smaller. I forget the exact dimensions. We can look on the other board. This board's the exact same size as the main PCB, right? So yeah, so I moved it to the middle of the board to give us more space. And when I did that, of course, I had to move the different triacs around. So triac number 1 is actually an upper left-hand corner, and then 2, and then 3, and then 4. All right, and of course the associated caps with them. And this should, I know these caps are also pretty tall, but I don't think they're as tall as this power supply. They're pretty close, but I think we'll have plenty of room. This guy was kind of bulky up at the very top there. And this also has kind of the added benefit of it puts the power feed in the middle of the board instead of at the very top. And like the main PCB, I put all the outputs on the left and right side of the board, and none of them down at the bottom, which, I don't know, this wouldn't have mattered this right here since they're just wires anyway, but it's just good to keep all this stuff away from the 3.5 millimeter jacks anyway, right? And that's about it. I mean, there's nothing real special on this board. It's pretty easy layout. And, here's the optocouplers. I guess the other big change is I moved these board-to-board connectors closer to the middle. And I did that because of the main PCB, the way it was laid out. I just couldn't move them off to the sides. So, but I think this will be okay. I won't have any problems, assembling the board like that. Another thing I did too, if you've been watching my previous videos, is I made absolutely sure every one of these connectors had pin 1 at the top. And yeah, because I wasn't going to go through that again. That was just a mess on the last one. So let's go back to our main board. I turn these dimensions off. Let's see, what else is there? Well, let's just pull up our things to do list here. See, controller is too deep. Yeah, I just showed you that. Move power supply. Yeah, I didn't move to the bottom, but we got it in the middle. That'll definitely be better. And reduce the PCB size, so excellent. Okay, and the PCB is too wide to fit in the front panel hole. And we reduced the width of it. So that's done. All right. So, I definitely need to fix that. I'll fix that off camera. I'm not going to do that now because I want to double check the LCD, make sure that's not going to... Make sure that the flat flex is long enough. I'm pretty sure. In fact, I'm 99% sure it is, because it's very long. So let's see, so you can see here's the connectors. I got moved closer to the middle. Yeah, with these big terminal blocks right here on the sides, I just couldn't put them anywhere logical. And the CSP board's real thick, or real wide. It takes up a lot of real estate. And I didn't want to put them down here on the bottom next to the 3.5 millimeter jacks. I didn't know how hard it was going to be to get to them and put it together. So yeah, this should be good. And the layout for the ADC is pretty much the same, except, like I said, it's been located towards the middle of the board, which made all these traces to the terminal block shorter, which is really nice. That should definitely help with the accuracy of it. Let's see, yep, and I moved the cold junction compensation closer to the terminal blocks. And let's see what else is in here. Yep, here's the rotary encoder. As you can see, there's just a bunch of passives around it, so it's not going to have any problems. And so here's the button headers. Now these look like they're in the same spot as these right here, but you have to remember this board is wider than this board. So since we're on to the button, let's go look at the button panel. Okay, here's the button panel. On the left is the version 3, on the right is the version 1. And as you can see, now we have 4 holes. Yeah, I can do the overlay. There's the overlay of it. It's basically going to be identical to the version 1, except now we've got 4 holes in the bottom instead of 2, right? And of course I had to move, here's the headers, I had to move the headers and the LEDs in to match up with the main PCB. Yeah, if we look on the top, let me turn this thing off. There's really not a lot of changes. I didn't move any of the chips around. Since I was laying out the main PCB from scratch, I did change some of the wiring on these board-to-board connectors. Okay, just to kind of make the traces, because before I had this power trace that went all the way across and came back all the way down here, and so I just moved it over here. And these traces still, you have to get the power all the way around this board anyway. So anyway, kind of eliminated that big one, and it just cleaned it up a little bit. But basically, the layout is identical. I just moved these board-to-board connectors around a little bit and added some more holes. And that's about it with this guy. Nothing much to look at. And if you're wondering why I make these pictures, is I take a picture of it and then I scale the picture to the exact size of the PCB, and it's not exact, it's the layout is not exact, but it gives me an idea of, is all this stuff really gonna fit on here, right? Because you can see I kind of lined everything up, so the picture kind of overlays on top of it. You can see like these holes aren't really lined up right, but this picture right here was basically me installing one of the 3.5 millimeter jacks in here, and then the switch over here, and then copying, pasting, and then moving it around. But it was still left to scale, right? So this should be fairly accurate. But I moved the holes around just to put them more in the center, because you can see even on this picture right here that, you know, part of this lock nut is going outside the board, so it needed to be moved up a little bit, right? So, and that's why I use the picture. It kind of gives me a sanity check. And just kind of A/B the thing, right? You know, if something's out of whack, you know, if your holes up, you know, if the rotary encoder holds on the wrong side, as you can see, everything's reversed because you're looking through the PCB, and it's real hard. It's real easy to flip everything backwards, right? Probably, let me show you the 3D view of it. So looking at it like this, this 3D view is probably not going to be very good, but we'll try it. Yeah, it's not very good, but yeah, it doesn't have the number. But as you can see now the rotary encoder is actually on the right side, which is the correct side. And versus what we're looking at in this picture right here, where the rotary encoder is on the left, it's because you're looking through the PCB. You're not actually looking at the bottom side of the PCB. And this messes me up, and I'm sure it messes a lot of people up when you're laying this thing out. But okay, so I went ahead and opened the main PCB back up, and you can kind of look at the images on this. Of course, the LCD and the button panel mount to the bottom side, or the back side of the PCB, and the high voltage controller mounts to the top side. All right, so we can turn on that image, and yeah, I know it's kind of hard to see, but you can kind of see where everything kind of, you know, lines up, and you can kind of see where these headers are kind of lined up. And these are actually off from the picture. When I was laying this out, I actually moved them around a little bit, and I didn't bother updating the picture. You can see these down here are better aligned, and as they should be. So, but yeah, you can just kind of, you know, kind of tinker with this and take a look at it, and just kind of, you know, it's a good sanity check, really. I can pop the button panel up, and you can, you know, look at the back side, and, you know, make sure, okay, is the rotary encoder lined up okay, and, you know, there's a hole there, a hole in the right spot. These button headers line up okay. I guess while we're at it, let's go look at the 3D version of this. You know, and that's what I do. I actually finished these PCBs last week. But I keep opening up the PCBs and looking at them and kind of reviewing them, and whoop, hold on, I lost my 3D image. Hold on, I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. My 3D image it wasn't on any of the monitors. It was on some ghost monitor somewhere. I had to mess around with it for a bit to get it to work again. Anyway, here's the main PCB. I forget what I was talking about, but it's just a good sanity check. I don't have all the you know, the CAD models for these 3D devices. It would be nice, because then we could go in there and kind of flip this guy over and look at the, you know, the heights on everything. But and I could probably draw them, but that would be a lot of work. So let's look at the back side of it. Yeah, I don't see anything. Looks bad. Everything looks pretty good. One thing to notice is, so here's the you know, the board-to-board connectors right here. And if you notice, the square one is pin 1, and no matter if you're looking at it either side, pin 1 is always at the top. Okay, I don't know why their pan and zoom is different than in the PCB layout and the schematic tool, but it is. So anyway, it's the right mouse button in case you use dip trace. Yeah, so here's the button headers, and or they're actually going to be board-to-board connectors in the production models. But yeah, so I've got everything on the top. So yeah, it looks pretty good, huh? Okay, so I went ahead and, and added the cutout. I figured I'd go ahead and just pop it in there real quick and show you guys. It's basically it's 2 meters by 2 meters. It's 2 millimeters by 10 millimeters. You can kind of see the dimensions down here. I guess I can zoom in. And I kind of move these guys around a little bit. And I tell you, I measured. So here's the flat flex connector right here. And you can see right here this measurement. So it's 40.2 inches from the edge of this cutout to about where the flat flex will terminate, stop inside this connector right here, right? So, so if you add the 40.2, that's just coming from the edge of this cutout to the connector termination point. And plus it's got a loop around, right? So there's that's what this measurement is right here. So it's the way I did it, if you're curious, I just said, okay, well, here's the edge of the LCD. All right, so it's flex is going to come out the middle, and it's going to go into this cutout right here is basically 16 millimeters. So that gives us about 56 millimeters. And I was looking at the spec, and I did measure this to double check. So the spec says that the flat flex is about 63 millimeters. I measured 62, but that's okay. So that gives us 56. That gives us about 7 millimeters or so of play. And we're going to need every bit of it, I think, because this thing is going to be lifted off the board a little bit. So yeah, it'll be pretty tight. And I kind of looked at, what I could do if I could come down here and just kind of move this connector down. And I mean, if I really get, if we really start having problems, I can move the connector way down here and then move all these caps up here. But as you can tell, that would be a lot of work. So it looks okay. We've got, let's see, 56 from 63. That gives us, about 7-8 millimeters to work with. I think that should be okay. And as long as we don't have anything really tall in front of it or behind it to get in the way, so we should be good. So yeah, there's a cutout. I just wanted to show you that real quick. Thought it was kind of interesting. Don't forget, you can support the Muxall Open IoT channel by donation using a credit card and PayPal, or by purchasing products at the Muxall store. Details and links are in the description under this video. Well, that's it for this video. If you liked the video, give it a big thumbs up. That helps. And hit the subscribe button. That really helps. If you have any questions or comments, post them in the comments under this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.